Do you really need to waste thousands to get this right? Are you about to make the biggest mistake in beginner woodworking? I know I've made this mistake and it cost me more than a brand new table saw. It sounds so simple, but if you get this wrong, you will end up with an empty wallet, clogged tools, and fine dust covering your lungs in no time. So today I'm going to show you how to avoid the biggest traps in the dust collection world, how to save money on purchasing kit, and also how to work towards having a safe workshop that's as dust free as you can possibly make it. So what's the biggest mistake that beginner woodworkers make? For me, there's a couple of reasons, but one of the main ones, and I fell into this early doors, is not understanding the difference between different pieces of kit. This isn't a one size fits all, and that one tool, whilst might be good for one type of dust extraction, doesn't mean that it'll work on every appliance that you've got in your workshop. And as you get out of problem one, you walk yourself straight into problem two, because once you've realised that that one piece of kit just won't do everything, you go out and buy as much kit as you can. And this for me is where a lot of beginners start to lose their money. It's easy to look on places like YouTube and see cyclones and dust separators and think that's the kind of kit that you need. And there's one of the biggest conundrums in woodworking. Sometimes they actually are, but it depends on your setup, because whilst a big dust extractor and cyclone might seem really appealing, there might be times when all you need is a small shop vac and some extra filter cartridges. It's really important that if I show you the kit that I've accumulated over 4 years, tell you the pros and the cons, tell you what each one does, it might give you a starter for 10 for deciding what you need for dust collection in your own workshop. So we're out now live in the workshop, and let's take a look at the kit that I've got. The most simplest piece of kit I've got for dust collection is the good old-fashioned broom. The pros for a piece of kit like this is that it comes in at around about £3. It's simple to use. The cons are that you have to wait for all that dust to settle. It won't take it away in the moment of the cut. The other problem is, after a while, they do break. So the first bit of kit that I really got for dust collection was this shop vac. Now over in the UK we call these Henrys. Can't think why. But there's one real problem with this kit, and that's the size of the hose. Obviously you can extend the length out as much as you want, but the real problem is the 1-inch diameter that it comes with. The way that a shop vac works quite simply is that it's got low volume at high pressure. That means there's not a great deal of air getting sucked in, but what is really getting dragged through with some force. That's why it can only handle the smaller dust ports. This tool's most at home on things like sanders, miter saws, those other small sort of dust port type tools that you've got. What it won't run is a thickness planer. I know this because my lunchbox planer has a 1-inch dust port, and I've recently had to upgrade it because it was getting clogged every 10 seconds. So the next bit of kit that I upgraded to was this Shapak chip extractor. This I thought would solve all my problems when I moved from my small workshop to this slightly bigger one here. And this is when I talk about understanding what things will do. I thought this was going to be a solution to all the problems because it had more power than the Henry and it had a bigger hose. What I didn't understand is what it's actually useful for. This thing's got the bigger 100mm hose, which is great for picking up those larger chips. What it doesn't do though is get a lot of that fine dust, and that's what I misunderstood. This dust extractor works the opposite way to what the Henry does. This works on a high volume of air being sucked in but at low pressure. And what that should enable it to do with the bigger ports is to pull more air through per minute than the smaller ones. This thing excels at picking up those bigger chips, those chunks that are going to come from like a lunchbox planer or something like that, maybe the back end of a table saw. What it isn't any good for is your smaller tools like your sander or like the blade guard on top of your table saw. One of the really big limitations that this has is capacity. Whilst this drum looks impressive, I can assure you half an hour on the thicknesser and this thing is full to bursting. Now this is my most recent upgrade and what I'm hoping is going to improve the dust collection in my workshop. This works exactly the same as the Shapak, but it's bigger. It's got, instead of a vacuum type motor, it's got a propeller in here that sucks in more air than the Shapak ever could. All that dust is deposited down into the bag and it vents from a cotton bag up the top. There are some great upgrades you can get, or better versions where they've got a filter cartridge up above. You're looking at about £300 to £400 for a basic filter cartridge, so on its own that is a huge investment, but certainly one that I'll be aiming for in the near future. Again, working on a 100mm hose, this has got the capacity to take in a large amount of chips very quickly. This is what helps keep your workshop nice and clean, but it won't help so much with that fine dust. One thing that you'll most likely need to go with any dust collection solution is going to be one of these. It's a reducer with bits of wood falling out of the bottom of it. As you can see, what it does, it reduces down from one size down to the other. That's great to help it fit more tools. The problem with that, every time you're adding a connection, you're losing some capacity. The way around that for me is quite simple. I add gaffer tape around all the seals. That way I can ensure I've got a really tight friction fit, so I've got as fewer leaks as possible. So the final bit of kit that I've got, and this footage may be a bit shaky because of it, is an air scrubber. This sits high up in my workshop, up on the ceiling. What this does, once turned on, is it pulls air through this filter cartridge at the back and blows out at the front. As long as you keep this filter clean, not like it is now, it'll keep sucking in all that fine dust that's going to float around your workshop. The great thing that I found with this is that it's got a timer system on it, and that allows for you to leave it on for either 2, 4 or 8 hours after you leave the workshop. That way you can continue to be getting clean, fresh air. Well, the question there is quite simple, but the answer, as always on this topic, is a little bit more difficult. It depends basically on what you're going to be running. If you're running small hand tools, a shop vac will do just fine. You'll need somewhere between 50 and 100 cubic feet per minute of suction power. For your bigger tools, like a lunchbox planer and a table saw, you need to be moving up in power towards 300 cubic feet a minute. That's quite a jump, and that's why different machines come in at different points. If you've got even bigger kit like a full-size planer, drum sanders, that sort of thing, you're going to be jumping up to about 500 cubic feet a minute. That is one hell of a piece of dust extraction kit. Well, one easy way is to look in the manual and have a look at what it says. But let's be honest, we've all been there. Cars are a great example. You get a mile per gallon estimate and it never works out because things in the real world are never quite like they are in testing. So I thought I'd take some of the guesswork out for you on this, and I'm going to test my machines to see how much airflow they get and see if I can use this as a guide to help you. Right guys, we're back in the workshop and I've bought I've bought a wind measurer. And what this is going to do is I'm going to put this up against the entrance to a hose. I'm going to turn the machine on, let it run up to full capacity. I'm then going to take a measurement for each one of the 3 pieces of kit and see how it goes. I will do my best to try and ensure it's as fair as I can, but let's face it, I'm just some dork in a garage messing about with the cheapest thing he could find on Amazon that he thinks he can return afterwards. Right, so that's all the testing done. One thing just to note there, the machine itself measured in meters a second. I will convert that over to cubic feet because that's what I spoke about before. I'll do that off camera because you really don't want to see me trying to do maths in my head live on a video stream. So looking at the results, the Henry Hoover came in with a maximum of 21 meters a second. The Shapak came in at the lowest. I think that maxed out at about 6.7 meters a second. And the third one, the large dust extractor, came in at around 16 meters a second or slightly above. But it just shows how easy it would be to get lulled into a false sense of security thinking that the biggest piece of kit pulled in the most air. The great thing with dust collection is there's so much of it that you can DIY yourself to keep that cost down. Making your own ducting from drain pipes to your own cyclone dust collectors, you can make this as cheap or as expensive as you wish. The thing is, as woodworkers though, we all get so preoccupied with the dust that we can see. But what if I told you it's the dust that you can't see that's really going to kill you? that really fine stuff that's in the air for the hours after you've made cuts on your table saw or your miter saw is going to be getting into your lungs and causing you problems further down the line. So this is why dust extractors alone shouldn't be your only source of defence. There are tons of other things that you can do to reduce the risks. A dead easy one that we can all do is to wear a mask. Now these things come in all shapes and sizes with different filters to different levels for different things, from fine dust to aerosol sprays to all manner of things. It's another area that you need to do a little bit of research on and decide what's the best option for you. Your only problem with a mask is it makes communicating that little bit harder, and that's no good if you're trying to film a video. I wish I'd have known at the beginning not to concentrate too much on trying to build a massive duct system and just work on making sure that I'm getting the most efficiency at point of collection on the tool. It's far more efficient to work on the front end, making sure that you've got that right, than it is buying a more powerful machine and just losing all that air pressure to leaks and needless bends and turns. Well, it's quite simple. It's like everything else in your workshop. There's very few of us who came in on day one and had 30 or 40 tools. And when you look at what you often start with, it is the smaller tools. So a shop vac will do great if you can move it from the sander to the table saw to the miter saw. And as you buy more kit, bigger things like planers, then at that point you need to be upgrading and investing more. One thing I would highly recommend is the scrubber. There is a cheaper alternative and it's a ton of fun. You look at a workshop like mine in a garage, there's a dead easy fix for all that fine dust, and that's to open the door, get a leaf blower and blow a typhoon straight through the middle of your workshop, getting rid of as much of that dust as you can. Top tip though, make sure you move your wife's car first, especially if you do that the day after it's just come back from having a valet. Yeah. We've seen today that you don't need to chase after a big industrial setup, making smart choices, upgrading when you need it for a tool, looking at your filtered options, and also just being consistent with how you purchase your dust collection upgrades in line with your tools will make all the difference. It'll stop you spending out those thousands today at the beginning. So if you've got some value out of today's video, if I could ask a favour and get you to hit that like button, it really helps a small channel out like mine. But until the next video, I'm Ross, this is Woodworking, and I hope you have a great time in your workshop.